I'd like to call tonight's Lower Macungie Township Board of Commissioners Workshop meeting to order. Could we please stand for a pledge of allegiance to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay, so we'll start with item number 2. Review resolution and plan for DNJ Property Group LLC, minor subdivision 6130 Sauerkraut Lane. Mr. Jones.
Gentlemen, how are we doing? So this is a minor subdivision at the corner of Willow and Sauerkraut. We've been working with this property owner now for many months. The rear of the property consists of the creek and the floodplain and the existing riparian buffer. The applicants went to the zoning hearing board to get relief to create the newly proposed 2 lots up there on the northeast corner that will be buildable for 2 single-family residences. The existing farmhouse, barn, now with an accessory in-law suite, remain at the lower west, southwest portion of the lot, and they are clearly within the 100-year floodplain, as you can see. So we've been going back and forth on a number of items regarding the flood zone, but also just basic saldo issues, which after further discussion, we do have a trail that's proposed along Willow Lane, as well as Sauerkraut. We do have the required street trees that are also proposed. And as part of negotiations with the applicant, we have gotten, and also this is in part because of how everything panned out in the last recent couple of storms, the understanding in the agreement that they will connect to public sewer. Originally, it was a concern. They had the lots perked, and they were looking to do an on-lot system. But given discussions both with engineering and legal, as well as our SEO, and the time frame that it would take to get that permitted in the process, they understand that both for the farmhouse and for the 2 new residences, connecting to the public system is the way to go and is more affordable. So other than that, it's a minor subdivision. And while it has taken a long time, we've finally reached a point where everybody's in agreement and we should be able to basically get this moving forward at the next meeting. Happy to take any questions you might have. Brian, if you want to go into a little bit more detail on sewer or any of the other issues.
No, I think Nate's covered it. Not much to talk about. There's 2 new lots. The sewer's been addressed. That really was the biggest concern, or really engineering kind of thing. So I'm okay with it.
Okay, Commissioner Robert.
Okay, as far as the sewer is concerned, all of the sewer lines are going to be private, so there's no additional public sewer lines?
Yeah, they're their responsibility. In fact, they're very close to an existing manhole, so they'll be going out like they would any other resident out into the street. So,
Okay.
If I recall correctly, there's a connection up at the top of the page, so to speak,
yep.
where these 2 lots could connect to. The existing house, there's a run closer to them.
Right. The
So
existing
that
house
connection-
way down on Willow Lane, they'll be able to connect onto Willow
Right.
Lane. So,
So there'd be relatively short connections for both.
And it's all going to be gravity feed? Okay.
Are there any other commissioner questions? Nate, just out of curiosity, the need for a trail up Willow. There's one on the other side of the street already. Is it necessary to have 2? Which I'm fine with, and I think I have some reasons why there should be, but I'm just curious as to the thinking.
yeah, so the thinking here is one, we're right near the elementary school, walking elementary school. So we want to get all sides covered. Second, we do have our park, which is on the western side of the lot. The applicants are actually providing us with an easement so that we could connect in at some point as well. So we could move the trail into there. So again, it's about getting residents and, the public in general to that park when the time comes where we want to do a trail system within it and so on and so forth. But also with traffic being busy on Willow and Sauerkraut, with traffic being busy on Willow and Sauerkraut there, having access on both sides of the street keeps people from jaywalking and such. So
Does the easement get us from that top house up to where the crossing is into Kratzer?
Yep. It'll get us close to Kratzer.
Okay.
With the existing bridge or a new bridge?
I think that would have to be new.
It's gonna be a challenge.
But every little bit we can get is
Yeah.
beneficial because they are providing us with an easement across private property for the public to get to that point. Now, it would be if and when we even decide we want to build a trail there, we might not, but we'll always have the right to have it.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any public questions? Okay, then we'll move forward. Item number 3, review resolution and plan for Topgolf Lehigh Valley Land Development, 361 Shantz Road and 4511 Cedar Brook Road. Mr. Jones.
Okay, so for this one, I want to make a very important differentiation for both the public who's watching and members of the board. The Topgolf proposal that you see before you is for an individual lot, pad lot for the Topgolf use only. The access road and the stormwater management are the responsibility of Lansden Equities / Jandal. That is the access that will get patrons to Topgolf. That is the stormwater that will take the water from Topgolf. That is a separate plan that is filed with us. That's currently in technical review and under review. They have to get their approvals from PennDOT. They have to get their approvals from the Conservation District. We're still going through the motions on those items. That being said, the plan that's in front of you is a preliminary final plan submitted by Arco Murray on behalf of Topgolf that specifically addresses the Topgolf only portion of the site. That includes the parking, the structure itself, the access drive, refuse pickup, and landscape buffering towards the cemetery over on the southeastern portion of the site. So we have reviewed with great interest this Topgolf portion. And again, because this is a product that's being built basically nationwide right now, we've reviewed it to the point where there's a level of satisfaction. There was one outstanding item regarding the LED lighting system that is actually affixed to the structures that lights up the outfield that you drive out onto there. And the applicants have agreed to submit to PennDOT for feedback on it just because it abuts the highway. We have internally reviewed it though and looked at the lighting plan, and it's similar to other Topgolf locations. So at this point in time, between the landscaping, emergency access, general parking, trails, and so on, this portion of the plan is fairly basic and good to go. What we are waiting on is obviously the bigger items regarding the stormwater and the traffic. And our understanding is there's continuous interaction between Pidcock Company and CKS on submissions for that, because without the stormwater and the road, this doesn't happen. So it's a two-piece move. This is piece one that we'd be recommending for approval. And then shortly thereafter, hopefully the road and the basin get handled. Brian, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, not necessarily. I will say that our January 3rd letter is relatively long, but it's really frankly mostly cleanup. As Nate mentioned, the stormwater management basin is immediately adjacent to the Topgolf lot. And as such, this stormwater design is really more about collection and conveyance. They've addressed our concerns in that regard. We had them add some inlets. We weren't too keen on what they had originally proposed. We felt like they needed more points of collection. They looked at the design storms a little bit differently at our request. And like I said, it's what remains is primarily draft and cleanup. As we had explained to the Planning Commission, it's fairly straightforward. Everybody knows what Topgolf is. It's based in this regard. It's a building, it's the driving range, and it's a parking lot. There's not much going on beyond that. We've stated in our letter, all of the various conditional use requirements that apply to this particular lot. I've already had discussions with Pidcock. They actually were going to submit plans prior to tonight to show compliance. I said, please don't. Because, it would have been physically impossible to review another fully revised set of plans, but they are confident that They have no issues addressing everything that's in our letter. And I've, with this project in particular, we've had a good back and forth with their engineers on things we're concerned about, explaining things that we want. They explain back. We generally have worked things out. So I'm pretty confident with where it stands. And like I said, relatively speaking, we're talking about a building, a parking lot, and a drainage, and a driving range. Not a whole lot of complexity here.
I think as a quick add-on, just for the board's edification, we're having monthly meetings with their project management team on this, since there are so many moving parts. So each month we handle getting updates on the traffic portion, getting updates on the stormwater management portion, getting updates on the wastewater portion, and then, of course, just the internal planning and design, which they're doing right now for the bigger portion that includes the mixed-use component. So those monthly updates give us a heads up on where everything is at. I can say with a strong degree of confidence that we're expecting additional submissions as part of this project within the next couple of months for upcoming phases that the board wanted to make sure we're going to come in. We have now been told they're coming. So it's all moving at a pretty quick pace.
I will add this, and this is different from the way things would normally work. This lot will not be created until the other submission is reviewed and approved. Because in the other submission, which currently is just the reconfiguration of Cedar Brook and the primary spine road, the access drive, that set includes the lot consolidation plan that will create Lot 2. They are aware that they cannot pull building permit through Lot 2 until that other plan is recorded. So it's kind of weird, but I don't want to speak for the applicant. I certainly wouldn't even consider trying, but my understanding is that this is part of their obligations with Topgolf in making all of these things work. So it's slightly out of sequence in that regard, and I wanted to point it out in case any of the board members noticed, like, hey, you mentioned something about this other plan. We're well aware of how the sequencing has to happen. They've been made well aware of it, and they claim that they're perfectly fine with moving forward like this. So,
Commissioner questions? So I'm going to ask a question more for clarification. Am I correct in stating that while we have this in front of us, we don't have any confirmation that they have a sign off from PennDOT for the additional traffic? There's none of that has been acquired yet by the applicant. This is kind of, we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but
Yeah.
it'll be ready and done once that comes in.
yeah,
I would say we're setting the table. I mean, this is the anchor user for this site essentially. That component is now appropriate and approved, but you are correct. They continue submissions and review with PennDOT, submissions and review with the Conservation District / DEP, and discussions with both the LCA and our abutting communities in terms of sewage management, wastewater management, and that is all being done concurrently with this aspect. It's the way that they explain it to us is this, they want to make sure that this is ready to go as soon as everything else is approved. So,
to add to what Nate said, the way it was explained, that because my concern was, hey, look, you're proposing this, you cannot access this without the spine road going in concurrently or before. You show that reconfiguration of Cedar Brook. That's a big deal, relatively speaking, because that's the only way to get into this site. So what is that configuration that you show on the plans for the other set that's under review? Where does that stand? What's the chances of PennDOT coming back and saying, yeah, we don't like this, you're going to change everything? They feel confident that, as shown, even though they expect some comments, the lane configurations, the general layout of the I'll say reconfigured Cedar Brook Road section, they feel comfortable that that's maxed out in terms of future build out and all that. And that the way they explained it was PennDOT's well aware of all of the other stuff that's coming. And it isn't a matter of this part changing. It's more a matter of what the offsite improvements will be as the other phases and the other basically traffic loads come in.
Mhm.
But and again, this is their risk, but they're well aware that the other plan is not getting approved until we get PennDOT signing off. My impression is that it will be I guess, for lack of a better term, it would be kind of a phased approval almost. But they know that they can't get Topgolf going unless that intersection is built. And they feel like it's maxed out right now as far as how they show it on the plans. The other things that they know have to happen will kind of be pieces that get filled in as the other users are locked in. And as Nate mentioned, we had a pretty positive meeting a couple of weeks back where it does sound like things are moving along pretty well. I was kind of anticipating, oh yeah, we're not sure, but they seem pretty darn confident with getting things locked in.
Is that chunk of Cedar Brook Township or state road?
It's a state road.
Okay, and PennDOT seems fairly happy with the reconfiguration of Cedar Brook?
I haven't heard directly from PennDOT that they're not. And what we've been doing, because this is not just talking about maybe widening in a right turn lane. I've been deferring, a lot of the heavy lifting to our traffic engineer. And, there are things that they need to address, but it seems like everybody's, well, it's really tight. This seems to work. We'll see what PennDOT actually says when they start spitting out, comments on the design itself. I think, Maury, most of what's been kicked around has been the traffic study in terms of what to expect from final build out. And I think they've maybe scratched the surface of the layout right now. And so it's kind of, again, it's kind of weird in a way because I think most applicants would want a little bit better comfort level before they started really pushing. But I think the aggressive pace of this is such that they're willing to take their chances. And I don't want to say that and like throw something out that I shouldn't in public, but it just seems like they're aware and they feel very confident that we got this nailed down the best we're going to get down. And
Well, and I think for the relationship with Topgolf, being able to get this approved so that, they can tell them that, yeah, you're approved and we'll
Yeah.
deal with the other stuff.
and I do think that's a large part of it.
Yeah.
Because it kind of vests rights, in terms of that component. They can then say to the Topgolf guys, look, we're still moving, we're moving, but they are aggressively pushing on all of the other fronts. I do know that.
And just two last questions for me. Nate, how many residential units are left on Cedar Brook at that end? Do we know?
Off the top of my head, Commissioner, I can't say I know for sure, but I think it's something to the effect of maybe 5 or 6 at most.
And
At
just,
most. At most.
yeah, out of curiosity, I know it was brought up at our last hearing on this project, or I'd say the conditional use hearing on this project. Have we heard anything in regards to any feedback from PennDOT about improvements that may have to be made to Shantz Road on the other end towards the bridge?
Yeah, our understanding is, and this is when we have these discussions that the applicants view this as one of the further out improvements, but the reality of the situation is one way or the other, they expect to have an access point on Shantz Road, and there is an expectation that the bridge, curve, and everything will need to be managed per PennDOT. Our other expectation is that the intersection with Centronia is obviously going to have to get some upgrades as well. So I don't think it's something that everybody is moving forward with as saying, yes, we know we have to do it, obviously, but in that they're excited to, but yeah, it needs to get done. That curve, the bridge, the flooding, those are all items that need to be addressed.
Thank you.
And everybody, including staff, is very well aware of that. It was a testimony during the conditional use hearing, so.
Hey, any other questions for the planner or the engineer? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 4. Review resolution and plan for Brookside Meadows Apartments Land Development, 3500 Brookside Road.
Okay, so this project, I remember sitting in a initial pre-application meeting when I started in 2018. It's been around for quite a while. We have 44 units proposed in the urban zoning district next to Waring's, the former Drees site, and across the street from Township Community Center. We've been having a significant amount of discussion over the last several years regarding this site, specifically because of stormwater. And I'll let Engineer McAdam speak to that. But obviously, after some of the larger events we had, we wanted to ensure from a health, safety, and welfare perspective that there were not major concerns for the future residents living there. And again, I'll let Engineer McAdam go into the depth of study and review that we took to make sure that it met the standard there. The site overall includes the basin there at the bottom. The stormwater system itself includes a lot of inlets, but also a very novel culvert system, which will essentially capture and move water around the site down towards the creek in such a fashion that it is not causing an issue for those downstream, but also not causing an issue for the site as a whole. There was originally parking that's proposed, but we also ensured that we have the necessary fire access lanes in our most recent round of review. There are amenities proposed for the site that include an outdoor seating area, an outdoor space for the residents there. There will be signage, both monument signage that's visible from Brookside Road, but also, as per our last meeting, at the new entrance, which will not be at the intersection with the private road there, but a new access drive on Brookside Road. There'll be a signage there as well. That will be the main entrance point. There's an on-site trail system for residents to use. There is a proposed crosswalk that goes across Brookside Road that will have flashing signage and highly visible crosswalk space there. Our expectation is at some point in time, due to development in the general area, that intersection will likely get improved as part of an HOP, possibly for a project in Upper Milford or maybe in Lower Macungie Township. And then last but not least, we do have a pretty generous landscaping plan across the board for the site. So we do have emergency access on the private road with a Knox box. So there's 2 ways in, 2 ways out if necessary. And again, it has been a pretty long haul, but we did make sure that we are covered both from the traffic safety perspective as well as the stormwater slash floodway perspective, with the creek being right there and some of the stormwater issues that had occurred in the area over there over the last couple of years. I'd note that there's parking in reserve that's proposed. The Planning Commission has recommended that we proceed forward with it at this time, or we look at some other arrangement with the applicant just to make sure that the work is secured so that if and when the time is necessary, it's there. That's written in your resolution. But again, it's taken years to get to this point. I defer to Engineer McAdam to talk about the stormwater solution. That was the top item on everybody's list following Storm Isaias. And when we got flooded out of here at the municipal building, we do understand that that was the impetus for a lot of stormwater study that occurred. And I know Brian was involved in it. So Brian, if you wouldn't mind sharing your findings with the board and the steps that were taken to improve the site.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, so through the course of the review and design process, what the current plan shows is, I believe it's 3, if not 4 new inlets near the intersection at Indian Creek. The applicant's also showing removal and replacement of an existing head wall that's on the corner by the Township Public Works facility. Basically an entirely new collection system at that immediate intersection to better, basically literally better collect the runoff as it comes down Brookside Road from the hill. And in addition, the configuration for the primary large, I'll call it the bypass pipe, that's changed a couple of different times, but what we have right now is a large inlet that's at the corner, that little triangle that's there, that is in a sump condition. We in going back and forth with the applicant's engineer, we had them lower that to make sure that it's got enough of a dish, so to speak, enough of a sump to guarantee that the water is going to get in there. In addition, if the board recalls, we had previously pushed pretty hard for curbing along Brookside Road, mostly because we felt it would be better for stormwater conveyance and just the general conditions out there. PennDOT said we do not want the curb. We will not permit the curb out there. So the applicant then had to revise the plan, take the curbing out, and they basically put in a swale. We were not crazy about it, and they went back, when we went back and forth, they put a couple of inlets between the buildings and Brookside Road to ensure that anything that gets, is coming along Brookside that doesn't get into that giant inlet at the intersection will hit these other inlets and not cause a flooding problem with the buildings themselves. The pipe, as Nate described, will basically go from the small triangle across the front of the two units and then past the basin, hang a hard left, and then discharge out towards the creek. Something that was made aware to all of us during the course of the review and approval was that there is an existing PennDOT box culvert in Brookside Road. Kind of crazy. I don't think anybody knows when it was installed, but it's rather unusual in that is, I think, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 2x3 or 4x2, 4x3, something. So it's a large box culvert that runs under Brookside Road, parallel to the road, and then discharges somewhere down there. PennDOT, it's hard to say, and I don't want to say something disparaging at a public meeting, but it's kind of unusual that it'd be kind of just, yeah, we're not sure what goes on. But through the work of the applicant, they actually got some videotape of the conditions inside that culvert. And frankly, there's some boulders in there that need to be removed. The township, I believe, corresponded with PennDOT and said, hey, by the way, we got some pictures because of this development. We think you guys might want to be aware of this and maybe do some maintenance. Obviously, we have no control of when or if that happens. However, it helped to explain why, to date, there might be some issues with water, stormwater conveyance in this general area. So what's going to happen with this project is it will pick up the runoff coming down Brookside and basically reroute it, so to speak, instead of hitting the field as it currently does. It'll basically take all of the runoff around the project and discharge it, like I said, past the basin. So we're comfortable that between our efforts and the applicant's engineer's efforts, we have a system that is going to do what we're expecting it to do. I say that cautiously because we don't have a crystal ball, but I do feel comfortable that we beat this to death, and we've got a system that is, at the very least, going to meet the 100-year requirements, if not more so. And particularly if PennDOT gets that box culvert cleaned out, it'll be a significant improvement to the area in general. So all that said, we're comfortable with what's proposed. It's certainly a unique configuration, but the applicant's engineer has done what we've asked, and we're in a position to say we're good with it.
Commissioner Robert.
Associated with the curbing on Brookside, there was a condition in the conditional use associated with that one.
Yes.
And so do we need to do anything to revise the conditional use to remove that, or how does that work?
Okay. If anything, it would.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you don't think we would need to make any revisions to that? Okay, and it doesn't really relate to this project directly, but there hasn't been an traffic accident at the intersection of Indian Creek and Brookside since this morning. And, that's like the third one in, what, the last 3 months? It seems to me that we probably ought to be somehow looking at getting a light in there sooner rather than later. And if there are any grants or anything that we could apply for, that would always be nice.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, Maury. There was a time when we were debating, traffic light either at Spring, or at Indian Creek and Brookside, or Mine Site and Cedar Crest. We chose Mine Site and Cedar Crest, and then we took that off the books. I'm more inclined to say we need one in Indian Creek and Brookside now because of this. At the time, I didn't think so, just because we're talking about not the same type of traffic, but is that still, are those funds still in there? That was like the Act 209.
Yeah, we do hold some funds on that district, so probably not close to the $2 or $3 million that this light would probably, require. It's interesting that PennDOT is not, making developers or having developers in the area, including, up to 90+ residential units on Indian Creek in another municipality, or any other development, take responsibility for the increased traffic in the area and make those improvements. So we're hopeful that we can encourage PennDOT to continue to make these obligations on their 2 state roadways that they have control over, to lay that groundwork and ensure that, like I said, those that develop are improving the areas that they're impacting. So.
But I think that's definitely something we have to look at. I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I'm gonna say this a bunch of different times. I'm not in favor of this development. I've never been in favor of it. I can tell you I won't vote yes for it. I don't think it's in the best interest of the health, safety, and welfare of the community. I have not yet seen a development that says it will take care of all the stormwater problems, that actually does take care of all the stormwater problems. Regardless of what the engineering and technology is. I don't like the fact that PennDOT is going to allow a crossing on Brookside Road at a bend where cars fly and with no safety mechanisms. I just don't think it's a good project for where it's located. And that's a shame, because I truly like to be as helpful as I can to our developers and our properties. I just don't think it's the right place for this type of building. That being said, I'm just one person. So, but I do think if this is approved, that we have to take a serious look at those traffic calming measures, because sometimes pulling out of our driveway here is challenging. I can't imagine somebody crossing Brookside Road with cars coming around a bend, which is going to be scary, scary.
Well, okay, the pedestrian crossing is now going to be at Indian Creek.
With no traffic light. I mean, like, regardless where it is, it's just not expecting anybody to cross Brookside Road, I think is, without some sort of a traffic signal or stop sign is a problem. But especially down this end, because cars come through here so quickly. Throw in the fact how many trees have fallen on Brookside Road at this end of the township in the last 2 months. It's a dangerous place.
Tony, where do you guys stand with PennDOT? Okay. For the pedestrian signals? Okay. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. All right. I wanted to get the most up to date and for that information that we could for the board's sake. And it's in light of the concerns about traffic signal, because we obviously had discussions about this during the course of the earlier course of the review process to get to where we are. And I was just generally curious if PennDOT had any feedback to say, hey, it might not be a bad idea if you guys put a light in. So I honestly not pressing, but just curious if it had come up with. So the only thing they really weighed in on outwardly was we don't want curb. So that's what we're up against. Right, right. Conceptually, because it's still moving forward with that. Yeah.
Any other commissioner comments or
Well,
questions? Yes, Commissioner Rom.
and there is a condition in the approvals that if a light does go in, then the applicant would have to reconfigure the private road.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Any public comments or questions? Okay, then we'll move forward. Item 5, review sewer planning module for Shannick Park minor subdivision on Creamery Road. Mr. Jones. Or is this?
Yep, I got this. So, this is a subdivision that was approved some time ago, years ago with the township. And, basically what's occurring now at this point is these are lots of record and we now have, owners who wish to exercise, the ability to build residences on these lots of record. And, as part of it, it's a sewer planning module so that they can get their, sewer. So it's very belt and suspenders. This is follow-up from something that occurred years ago. I can't remember the exact date that this subdivision was passed, but it was well before my tenure with the township. But we now have people who want to construct residences and they need to get their sewer approvals. So that's the long and short of it. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the planner? Julie, any questions?
Thanks. 2004.
I thought it was older than that.
Item number 6, review draft amendment to Chapter 7 Fire Prevention and Fire Protection Ordinance.
Yeah.
Mr. Vital.
Yeah, I just wanted the board to be aware, we circulated in your packets, a first rough draft, very preliminary rough draft of, where we were, just to let you guys know that we were, looking forward to, complete that. So far, we've already had another update since the board packet went out with another set of revisions. It's, each one's,
Is that two, just two
each
sets?
one's a packet.
Oh, yeah.
Each one was a packet.
Gotcha. You got both minutes?
There should be like 3 things in it. Anyway, just to let you guys know that, we were diligently moving forward, to make sure, everybody was okay with where we are. We understand that there's typos and, issues. Like I said, this is a next revision and I already have, more comments and feedback, for the solicitor's office. So, just wanted to make sure we were going in the right direction. A lot of the things that, we have in here just recognize the fire department as the agency, that services the township. You may or may not be aware in the fire safety chapter already. Chapter 7, we have, fire inspections, we have third-party billing, and we have, another item in there. However, we don't have the components to recognize, the fire service, component of this. So that will be, an addition to the chapter, that creates this component. So, there are some activities, the township gets authorized or the fire department gets authorized in, like, responding to emergencies, fundraising, recruiting, non-emergency public, service functions, all of those things, at this side. They also, have to be, responsible to the statutory side, provide any of the documents that the township, needs or requests for their, annual, budget reports, all the things that we currently get from the fire service. We are, like I said, working on this draft and continue. We'll share this with the department for feedback, and then bring it back to this board once we get closer. So just wanted you to be aware, just in case we're able to sit down and meet with the department, and hammer out any concerns they have, that would be back in front of the board, unless you want to see further discussion at a workshop. So.
Okay, any commissioner comments or questions?
And I would note, we will have, in addition, an agreement. The township already has an agreement with the fire service. It's fairly old, I think 2013, 2003, sometime of that effect as a service provider. We're working on that. That'll be the next component to go along with this document. So the ordinance update will be the first component. The agreement with the department that will address some other issues and items that you see here about reporting, financial statements, all of those things will be included in that document as well. So two parts.
Julie, any questions? Just to take a step back for a second, when are we expecting the Brookside Meadow Apartments land development to be on an agenda? The next meeting or a meeting in the future?
We have a MPC time clock deadline where we have to have it on for the next meeting, unless we get an extension from them.
Okey dokey.
And I would note, we're just for the board's knowledge, we'll be down Nate for the second February meeting. So we're trying to work through plans on agendas here to make sure that he's here. However, it may be necessary to bring some of these that we've discussed at that meeting where he's not in attendance. So.
Item 7, review of library board appointment recommendations. I see we have a recommendation in our packet for the reappointment of Therese Schweier and Layla Muth. Is that correct?
Correct, and they're both incumbents, and it would be for a 3-year term,
So expire January,
2027.
what day? The
January
first?
31st.
31st, 2027. Okay. Any comments or questions? Okay. Mr. Blytle, manager updates, 8.1 solid waste contract.
Yeah, a couple things here. I'll try not to be too long-winded. We are, as we said at the last meeting, every meeting we'll make an announcement about our future solid waste contract and the potential rate impacts to residents that may be negatively affect your home budget. We continue to monitor our peers where they are with their solid waste contracts, and we're drafting our request for proposal with legal to be able to go out. And hopefully early this spring, we should have some more concrete notice and numbers going forward for where it would be for the rest of the year. As we said Thursday, that contract does expire in August, so we're looking for that September through December component. And there may be potential rate increases midsummer for your last either half year or last quarter of services. So want to make sure the residents are aware. We did provide a notification in our newsletter that's going to be going out. We're also working with legal and everybody to have another component to do a hard mailer. Our deadline here is probably, we're not going to make the end of the month. We'll try probably into early February, where we want to notify all of the ratepayers that we have on file of what's going on. So we don't want to be caught in a situation where residents may be unaware. That's why we continue to talk about this at every meeting. So we're on it. Renee's actually created, if you haven't been on yet, she has a special tab now all about trash and this trash contract. So residents will be able to look at a question and answer, as well as just some background, our letter from Waste Management and things of that nature. So, and some articles from some other municipalities about other municipalities that have been facing the same issues. So she's done a lot of hard work on that. David and our writer have been doing a lot of work on some announcement pieces. So I'll let everybody know that it's coming. We're trying to be on top, as proactive as we can, to notify residents.
Who are the, I mean, obviously we have Waste Management, we have Mascaro. What are the other larger?
Republic, Whitetail.
So Republic is, right?
Yeah,
I've seen them around. Waste Man- Yep, sold to Waste Management.
Yeah. And we've also reached out to some municipalities who may or may not have interest on potentially looking at a
Regional?
bigger, regional type situation. I don't think there's going to be much interest, but we've also put that out there. Our timing's a little off because most of these other places start at the beginning of the year. So we don't know if we'll have people that are interested. I don't think they are at this point, but always trying to at least work with our peers too.
Did we ever inquire with Waste Management whether or not they would extend us for 1 quarter to get us to the beginning of the year?
We did, and they denied our request. So that's important to note as well. We wanted to have that stability for our residents, and unfortunately, they weren't interested in doing that. All right. 8 we good on trash? All right. 8.2, just want to let the board know, we briefly discussed it at a previous workshop. So the sanctuary at Hassville, they are our cat, dogs running at large provider. We got a notice late in October, that they were no longer going to provide that service, to the township for the 2024 year, when we went to renew our agreement. So, Mr. Trangoose reached out, with a little bit of negotiating. They were willing to, stay for 3 months, January, February, March, while we transition to just do cats. They will not do dogs. So I just want to let the board know, because we were at a pinch at the end of the year, I signed the 3-month agreement just to keep things consistent. So we had at least a minimum service. He is working with 2 other places that may or may not be able to help us with service. We're really struggling. Other municipalities are struggling as well, as the short notice from the sanctuary. So hopefully we have something for February or March that we can bring back and act on fairly quickly. So just want to let you know that I signed the agreement. We didn't really have
was
time to
the,
take it to the board.
What was the reasoning?
They
We
just-
We just renewed them. didn't we?
We did last year,
Every
so
year.
we have an annual. It's just something they're not looking to provide those services to any. I know Upper Macungie as well, us, Upper, North Whitehall. I think South Whitehall went with the Humane Society. Just difficulty right now in this field. So
I think they rely on volunteers.
Sure.
And so,
Well, they had cut back their services in our last agreement. They didn't pick up anymore or something like that.
Yeah.
Deliver something to take out on them.
they took the come to get. You could drop off.
Yes.
They took that. I don't want to say delivery, but they took that component out. So it's
I
something
heard though
that
you can DoorDash.
well, we're not really sure what we're gonna do here, so we're a little concerned. But we'll try our best to see what's out there. We
I
know
would think our bigger problem would be cats as opposed to dogs anyway.
it is. I want to say, I think it was between 7 or 10. I think they maybe grabbed last year dog wise. So yeah, it's not like we're doing hundreds, but it's enough if the state police or somebody has to have somebody come out. I do understand it, and I don't know a lot about it. I'm going to try to do some more research, but I think the county actually has a dog warden program. It might have been reduced over the years, but it's something we should look at and ask the county, if their service is there, if they have a dog warden program, how they would be willing to offer that to county municipalities. So that's just something I heard, and we're going to try to look at it. Polling place, 8-3. We're working for the community center in Hills at Lockridge, just because Renee and I think the amount went from like $100 to $200 as a polling place location. So they're reaffirming those agreements. I would note that West Coastville West Coastville Rec Hall was a polling place. With that being kind of closed and phasing that out, we've notified the county. We don't want to create any confusion with voters, but just to put that out there too. So we'll have 2 agreements now with the county instead of 3. We should see those for hopefully the next meeting or the meeting after to get that wrapped up in February.
so this is an agreement with the county.
Correct. Yeah, it says that they can use our place as a polling site. So 8-4, what I tried to pass out. Hopefully there's a couple parts here that didn't get, but however it went down the line. You should have one of these. You should have one of these in that's paper clipped together.
No.
So you should have gotten.
I don't have the paper.
Yeah, do,
I mean, I don't have, oh, no, I do.
No, take the paper clip off.
no, here.
No, there's
need
one.
this one.
Yeah, there's one that was.
And I didn't have the paper.
And here, there's
Both of
another one here, but I don't know how that got.
Just started handing paper.
Yeah, there's a third. I was missing a third.
We, we missed the handout part. Anyway, what you have before you is, Jason Great in facilities has been working with vendors, to look at our first project for the year for recreation, which included, rehabbing the tennis courts at Wild Cherry Park. That was a budgeted project for this year. So there's two pieces, and that's why, I provided the board just tonight with a paper clip together. You'll see, and I have to borrow Brian's here because we just gave all mine out. You'll see one component of this is, the ADA pathways, and the necessary, items that we were able to provide the vendor. If you're familiar, when you go into Wild Cherry, all the way past the tennis courts in that lot, to upgrade those ADA compliant spots, give it a pathway, have some asphalt paving from the parking spots towards the tennis court, and then have some connectivity from the sidewalk in the street, to the playground and the, pavilion. So, we thought it important while we brought this, component of, the redo, of the tennis court, restoration, which includes, taking, the fence off, sleeving the existing fence posts, in black, doing black fencing, milling areas that, would need to be done on that court. So asphalt paving, like 160 feet, in the cracks and everything, and patch those milled areas. Um, that project's at $136,891. We thought that plus the ADA component, we're just above, 200, like 201. We had budgeted 250 for that entire project. So we feel that we're in a good place to recommend to the board, that we can maybe move forward. Would like to, unless there's concerns, would like to get this moving so that we can be, kind of up first on the schedule, and have that ready for, summer. So, we just need to make sure we're good to go on the purchasing side. And then, unless there's concerns from any of you gentlemen, would like to get moving on that and execute it. So, it looks like we're on budget. We should be on time. If they get started in April or May, I guess it's always important with the surfacing. They have to have the right temperature to put down the, like the epoxy surfacing. So we want to make sure we get to that part. That's why they can't really do this now. So. The other thing with this, we had looked at, and he had talked to the same company, which is a different company from, who looked at the pickleball courts back here behind. You'll also see before you, I don't have the number because it got passed around. I want to say it's like 74,000, 76,000. That'll give, that would give you that would give you a compliant court for, recreation, not for tournament, but that would give you 8 courts, in the back here that would be right on the number, for that length with the appropriate spacing between. We've asked for some clarification in a sketch and a drawing, but it would be the will of the board. Would be 25,000 over the original Wild Cherry line item, to include this, have that extension go, have them do some asphalt paving plus, extension of like 9 feet, would get us to that component. So, for us, I think that's a fairly decent price, to get it where we are. However, we still wouldn't be tournament compliant. So if everybody's all right with that, would like to move forward and then take that in phase, not get one done so that as our other Wild Cherries line for pickleball, we don't want to take that out of service both at the same time. We'd like to focus our efforts on one, get done, have the next one, and complete that. So we're not down.
Wild Cherry is fine for pickleball?
It is. There, where are 3? There's the Prater, there and Prater. Yeah, they're in Prater. So that is available, but we don't want to take that away. So we'll put us 25,000 over the budget. I think to get us there, I mean, as best as we can to be compliant and give this company a chance to see what it is. So,
Make it up somewhere.
we're trying.
We're not paying overtime for, no,
Oh.
so we're good.
Well, we have, and I can give that an update as well. We've looked at, 2 or 3 vendors so far for, our playground, install at Spring Ridge Park. We're waiting for our third vendor to come back with some items. And we're very pleased with the 2 that we've seen so far. We think that we're going to be pushing our 400 budget, potentially to get what we want, over there. We might have to go a little higher. So, that project may be a little over budget. I would say probably 425, 450. We budgeted 100, bless you.
I thought it was 450 we budgeted.
And then we budgeted 400.
450 out.
Yeah.
450 was for Wild Cherry. 400 was for Spring Ridge.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that with all these projects, it's gonna get a good picture once now that we have this component, we bring back the playground component. So we're ready to kind of roll forward and have a nice design presentation for you guys. Hopefully at the next workshop or the March workshop as well. So you can see what we're really trying to have the vision of recreation with them involved to piece some things together. So with that, like I said, projects are moving. We're trying to be in position that we can execute and deliver on them all in this year. The elevator, we're working with the elevator engineer to complete the spec for this. We're hopeful that may be on budget, but we're hopeful. We'll see that. We're going to try last year. We were halfway through the year and they couldn't get the parts. So we're hoping if we keep moving. I know Mr. Cup is in touch with that engineer trying to get that delivered. Also looked at the Moscow lights. We've had a preliminary meeting with the lighting company for Quarry and Hills of Lockridge. We're making sure that on a couple things we have Dewey Engineering potentially working on the electrical drawings and diagrams for that to feed those. We've also had to engage with Vince in the zoning office. There's questions about where we'll be on height plus light cast. So we're working through that. Looking for a field meeting. I want to say it's either this Wednesday or next Wednesday back with Musco from their field rep to lay that out so we can have those prices and get that project moving as well. So it's our intention to be aggressive and hopefully have things done by summer if we're lucky.
I just thought of something and I can't remember now. Well, I'll remember. Oh, can we, well, let's start here. Any questions for Bruce on any of those things?
Yeah, so I'm sorry. There's one more thing too, Renee reminded me of. The firefighter earned income tax credit. That'll be coming. She's got her first part of the document. It has to be posted at the fire stations. She has the preliminary list. As soon as we get that, we'll get that to the board too, so that those gentlemen can receive the credit for their service. So
This was for the February workshop. Bruce, you and I have had this kind of preliminary discussion, but I'd like to bring it to the full board and see where we go with it. But now that we have a better understanding of the open space tax fund and what the limitations or lack thereof limitations are long-term, the potential of a aggressive land purchase program, so that we can just kind of like actually lay it out for the next, like a section of the next workshop so that we can best understand what the potential is that we could accomplish.
Sure. And I think if I can just touch on that briefly and that'll set that in as well. If we can, have an executive talk about land acquisition this evening, to make sure I'm in the right direction. But, Brian is correct. I don't know how I continue to mess things up with the open space tax, both for the maintenance component, as I understand it, and thank goodness for David and Mark. As I understand it, the earned income tax does not expire at the 5-year mark. So I was under the impression that that tax expired at the end of 5 years and had to be renewed by the voters. It's actually the opposite. That tax continues. Um, if the residents would have voted, the citizens would have voted the tax down, we wouldn't have been able to ask for a period of 5 years. That would have been out. As it stands, the tax continues until until the board or a future board would ask the question to go back to the voters to reaffirm the tax or take the tax away. So with that knowledge on my end, and now that I'm finally straightened out and understanding correctly and appropriately, um, what I'd like to just advise the board and potentially at the February workshop and some more details, how we look at a plan or a long-term plan with financing to go and potentially engage the acquisition of properties of interest on the open space map. Uh, we would have to be, oh, we don't have to be, but I would look to want to be fairly aggressive on issuance of any debt that we would incur. It would basically work on like the note we previously did. We may either have to float a bond and have a bond issuance, or potentially look at, depending on the amount, look at other vehicles like we have now, like like a bank note for a 10-year or 7-year period. We did set up because of the way I understood it. Our note now was a 5-year note, so that will be expiring and rolling off. If we start to and stagger the debt to roll some new debt on in that transitionary period, then we can move forward. I would say that number. If you look at what we deliver around 2.2 million, 2.1, 2.2 million in earned income tax collection, you would be looking conservatively at a 15 to 20 million dollar debt issuance to have for land purchasing that we could carry over for either that period of 10 or 20 years if we would float a bond. So I appreciate the lead off to that discussion, and maybe the board can start to think about what your goals or the policy is going to be for um, looking at the acquisition of that property. And do you feel comfortable with the issuance of longer term debt to accomplish that task? So.
Thank you, Bruce. Any public comment on agenda topics? Julie, yes, please come on up.
Julie McDonald, Fresh Meadow Drive. Yeah, I was just going to continue a little bit on make remarks on the conversation about Indian Creek, and Brookside
Mhm.
situation there. And I'm going to back up just a little bit because I'm repeating an observation. I wish I could tell you exactly who it was that said this on the news before I got here today about the 3 accidents that happened in Lower Macungie today, and saying it's not uncommon for there to be, because the reporter made the observation, what's the deal? All of a sudden and he had said, it's not unusual because when people are having, when there are accidents in an area, people are searching out new routes, basically, is the bottom line. And so they're going on a new route that they're not used to. But that kind of brought me around to the thought, maybe these aren't used anymore, or maybe they're not used here, but does PennDOT ever make use of or allow the use of the concave or convex kind of mirrors that they use on curves?
So as I understand it, the obligation on those type of mirrors then become a liability to the township potentially, as if that mirror is damaged or broken, then, and there's an issue, then, the individuals would look back at the township. There are some private ones that I've seen put up in places.
Yeah, I only know of one in the township, and that's at Lehigh Country Club, Riverbend, and Cedar Crest is the only one that I've ever seen.
It's a lot easier when they're private ones, as those are then maintained by the owner. So.
But I just had to kind of wonder if this particular accident was sort of somehow tied together, because the 3 of them happened within like an hour.
Yeah.
And it was on either end of Hamilton. And then we've got one here, so people are trying to circumvent things. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Julie, you have anything else for us this evening?
No.
Okay. Well, then the public is spoken for. With that, we will adjourn.
If I could, just for the
Yeah.
record, a brief executive about land acquisition and conditional use hearing
Deliberation.
deliberation.